Hello friends, this video on locomotion and movement part 19 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So with this we have reached towards the end of this lesson and I hope that this lesson on locomotion and movement would have helped you. Now it is time to look at some of the questions. So question number 1. Write true or false. If false, change the statement so that it is true. The first one. Actin is present in thin filament. Yes, actin is the thin filament, so it is true, and myosin is the thick one. H-zone of striated muscle fiber represents both thick and thin filaments. No, H-zone is that central portion of the filament which has only the thick filament. It does not have the thin filament. So H-zone only has the thick filament. So this is false. So if you look at it, this is the H-zone. So if you see, it has only the thick filaments not overlapped by the thin filaments. Human skeleton has 206 bones. Absolutely true. There are 11 pairs of ribs in a man. It is not 11, rather it is 12. It is 12 pairs of ribs. As I said, the first 7 are going to be the true ribs, the next 3 are going to be the false ribs, and the last 2 are going to be the floating ribs. Sternum is present on the ventral side of the body. Yes, true. This is sternum. This part is sternum. So, it is true. Let us look at question number 2. Write the difference between actin and myosin, red and white muscles, pectoral and pelvic girdle. So I have taught you about each of them. Let us quickly look at the difference. Actin and myosin. Actin forms the thin contractile protein. Myosin forms the thick one. Actin forms the isotropic band, which is also called the I band. Myosin forms the anisotropic band or the A band. Actin is the light band and myosin is the dark band. So it is very easy to distinguish between actin and myosin. In fact, if I ask you to write more differences, I think you will be able to write them. Next is red and white muscles. You remember I told you there are one set of muscles which are rich in a pigment called myoglobin, and due to the presence of myoglobin they are red in color. Whereas there is another set of muscles which have less amount of myoglobin and therefore they are pale in color or white in color. So red muscles receive their energy by aerobic respiration because they have a lot of mitochondria and they also have oxygen containing myoglobin. Whereas white muscles receive energy by anaerobic respiration because of lack of myoglobin and also fewer mitochondria being present. Pectoral and pelvic girdle. Pectoral girdle connects the upper limbs to axial skeleton, that is hands. And pelvic girdle connects the lower limbs, that is the hind limbs. Pectoral girdle is made up of 2 bones, clavicle and scapula, whereas pelvic girdle is made up of 2 coxal bones which are made of ilium, pubis and ischium. So the composition is different for pectoral and pelvic girdle. Question number 3. Match column 1 with column 2. So here you have column 1 and column 2. Smooth muscle. So smooth muscle is not related to myoglobin, thin filament, sutures. It is related to involuntary because smooth muscles are the involuntary muscles. Tropomyosin. Tropomyosin is related to the thin filament because tropomyosin is 2 strands or 2 filaments of tropomyosin are present on the actin filament, which is the thin filament. Red muscles contain a lot of myoglobin, so this will match with the myoglobin. Skull. Skull has sutures. What are sutures? Sutures are the fibrous joints which are present in the skull, because of which there is no movement allowed in the skull. So sutures are present in skull. Question number 4. Name the type of joint present between the following. Between atlas and axis. So atlas, the first bone of the first vertebrae of the vertebral column. So between atlas and axis, that is the second one. So because of this, this movement of your neck is possible. So this is which type of joint? This is the pivot joint or the pivotal joint. Next is carpal and metacarpal of thumb. Now this is the reason why you are able to move your thumb. So between carpals and metacarpals, that is the saddle joint. Between phalanges, which helps you to move your fingers. So what type of joints are present between the phalanges? That is the hinge joint. Between femur and acetabulum. So this is femur and this is the socket, that is acetabulum. What type of joint is present? The head of the femur is like a ball and the acetabulum is like a socket. So this is ball and socket joint. Between cranial bones. So the bones of the skull, because of which the skull is not movable. So that is fibrous joints. Between pubic bones in the pelvic girdle. So where is your pelvic girdle? So pelvic girdle is here. So between the pubic bones, what type of is present? That is ball and socket joint. Now let us look at the last question of this lesson. Fill in the blank spaces. All mammals except a few have dash cervical vertebra. So most of the mammals have 7 cervical vertebrae, including human beings. The number of phalanges in each limb of human is, so when you say each limb, whether it is an upper limb or a lower limb, so how many fingers do you have in your each limb? There are 5 fingers, right? And out of that, the thumb has how many phalanges? 2. All other fingers has 3. So there are 4 other fingers, so that will be 12. So 12 plus 2, that is 14. So the number of phalanges in each limb is 14. Thin filament of myofibril contains 2 F-actins and 2 other proteins, namely dash and dash. So if you look at the structure of the thin filament, so these 2 chains, these 2 are the F-actins, that is the filamentous actins. What are the other proteins present? This is one protein which is troponin, and this is another protein which is tropomyosin. So the answer would be troponin and tropomyosin. In a muscle fiber, calcium ions are stored in. Where is the calcium ion stored? It is stored in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The sarcoplasmic reticulum is like the endoplasmic reticulum. So it is present in sarcoplasmic reticulum. So whenever the muscle contraction needs to be initiated, these calcium ions are given out or released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum into the sarcoplasm. Dash and dash pairs of ribs are called the floating ribs. The last pairs of ribs, that is the 11th and the 12th pairs of ribs, are called floating ribs because they are not at all connected on the ventral side to the sternum. The human cranium is made up of dash bones. So how many bones are present in the cranium? That is, there are total 8 cranial bones. You remember we spoke about the parietal bones, temporal bone, so occipital bone. So they all are those out of those 8 bones which form the human cranium. So with this we have reached towards the end of this lesson, and I hope that this lesson would have helped you. So please go through the concepts very clearly so that you are able to understand that how actually movements take place inside your body. So see you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.